One family of instruments was first introduced back in 2000, and in that time, it's been wildly successful. But one of the things about everybody here at Fender is that we live and breathe guitars and basses. So we find ourselves constantly tinkering and modifying and looking for ways to improve our existing products. In addition to the mods and the refinements we've been coming up with, we have 5 years worth of player feedback from around the world. So we take all of that into account and we mix it together in one, killer little guitar and bass recipe, and we have our new Highway 1 instruments that are a total evolution from where they were before. But to understand everything that goes into the new Highway 1s, let's talk about where they started. The original Highways were basically the entry point for the American-made Fender instruments. They were pared down, lean and mean, bare bones, 3-on-the-tree instruments. They were beautiful in their simplicity. But over the last 6 years, we've been getting player feedback about some small refinements that could be made, and we've been looking into some of these things on our own. One of the ideas that we got was to reverse wind, reverse polarity the middle pickup on the Stratocaster, which would give you quieter hum canceling on 2 of the switching positions. So that's where this thing started, and from there it just kind of snowballed off. We went through every component and left no tonal stone unturned. The new models are supercharged versions of their former selves, completely upgraded and overhauled. The look of these instruments is still no frills, but underneath the hood, these are true tone machines. Every upgrade and feature has to do directly with playability and sound. Not a penny was spent on exotic woods, high zoot appearances. You're not going to find any gold hardware on these instruments. All of the money and energy went into function over looks, and that's Highway 1. I'd boil it down to one word: performance. 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 It's all about performance. These are high performance workhorses. The funny thing is when you do that, you end up with something that looks totally cool anyway. In going with the supercharged vibe, we decided to make a set of really fat, thick, hot pickups that would go well with today's modern rock sound, which would be a thick, dark sound that works under extreme high gain. These pickups are hotter and they're much more distortion friendly than a typical vintage pickup. And one of the reasons for that is because we used an Alnico 3 magnet, which basically shaves off the extreme high end. If you're playing a pickup that's got a lot of highs and you play it through extreme high gain, you get almost a brittleness or a harshness. And with these new pickups, that's not there. Plus we overwound these pickups to make them hotter, which makes them sound thicker and darker and fuller as well. But there's a trade-off with that. Typically, the thicker and darker you go sound-wise, the further you get away from what's characteristically a Tele or Strat guitar sound. If you drew a spectrum, that sought-after classic Fender sparkle would be at the other end from the thick and dark. So our tonal task was a delicate one. We had to find the balance between the two sounds and camp out right on the middle, not going over to either side. And I think that we did that because you have guitars that sound thick and huge, yet at the same time they still sparkle brilliantly when clean. So what else is new apart from the pickups? Almost a better way to ask that question is what isn't new, because it's almost all new. The Strat guitar has more mass at both the bridge and the headstock than ever before, from the new 70s profile headstock as well as the new bridge, which has a steel block now instead of zinc. Also, as you travel down the neck, we have huge frets on this instrument, which gives you much smoother playability, much easier to bend notes, and less fretboard drag, so it's a smoother playing instrument. The bridge pickup has our grease bucket circuit on it, which was designed in the custom shop. And it's a circuit that rolls off the highs on the bridge pickup, but it doesn't add that muffled tone in that you usually get with a normal tone control. In addition, we changed the string spacing on the bridge to have a narrower spacing because of the big frets. The action is so much easier that you don't want to be going off the edge of the fretboard while you're playing and bending notes, so the narrower spacing compensates for the smooth action of the big frets. And finally, the body. The body is now finished in a satin, thin, nitrocellulose lacquer finish. It's a premium, it's the most sought after guitar finish out there, and it's a thin finish, so it allows the wood to reverberate, it allows the tone to shine through, and it's also going to just start to wear itself down. It's going to be beautiful as you play it. The finish will sink in a little bit, it'll check. It's going to start to look like a vintage instrument that costs 5 times as much. But the cool thing is, you will have done that. You will be able to tell your story via the battle scars and wear and tear of these instruments, rather than acquiring it after someone else beat it up. Let's talk about basses, because what we did there was just huge. We still kept the satin nitro body and the 70s styling, but at the same time, basses are completely different instruments from guitars, so we had to attack them that way. We put the graphite Posiflex support rods in the neck, which is going to make them withstand way more punishment. It makes them way more stable. Basses are under a ton of tension with all the big strings on the neck. And we also put a badass 2 bridge with notched saddles on there as well. That's probably the #1 aftermarket modification of a Fender bass. And we put it on right from the get-go. It's a really heavy bridge that has a great sound. It has a tonality all of its own. So the bass has totally got the supercharged treatment as well. Highway 1s are built to absorb sweat, hot lights, spilled drinks, and the smoky haze of clubs. They're supposed to be thrown in the back of a van or a car night after night, getting beat up and still looking and sounding fantastic. The more beat up they get, the more a badge of honor they are and the cooler they look. They're high-performance workhorses. They're made to be played, used, and abused. These instruments will take a journey with you. They'll tell your story for you like a roadmap of where you've been.